Mr. Scott Reid, you can introduce yourself to the people watching. Tell us what your name is. Tell us what you do for a living.
Yeah, so I'm Scott. I'm a software engineer, so I'm a computer nerd. I also like lifting weights, eating chicken breasts, the usual.
Awesome, I love it. And how long have you been training here at Fit In, Scott?
It's probably over 3 years now.
Over 3 years, about 3.5, I would say.
I'd say, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And what would you say, how would you describe or encompass your experience here so far?
It's been pretty good. Definitely, things have changed quite a bit. I'm a lot stronger, in a lot better shape.
Awesome.
It's definitely been a very consistent part of my life. Coming here 3-4 times a week for 3.5 years. So,
yeah. How much time do you spend here per session?
Not actually that long. Just 30 minutes. So only an hour and a half or 2 hours a week.
There you go. Yeah, most people I think that, you have to spend an hour 5 days a week, and we're going to get into your results, but I think you're a testament to what can happen in 90 to 120 minutes a week of training.
Yeah.
Awesome. So let's get into it. Scott, what was your first impression walking into Fit Integrated?
I was relieved. So the situation I was in before I showed up is I had just finished school in the pandemic. So I was very unhealthy. I was in probably the worst shape of my life, definitely. I'd been eating like a frozen pizza at dinner sort of thing. And that was just like what I ate. Pretty much zero exercise. As the pandemic ended and I ended school, I was starting to, just like I would go mountain biking with my buddies or hiking, and I simply wasn't able to keep up. Very bad feeling. Obviously, I knew I needed to change something. And I've worked with a trainer in the past, back in 2015, 2016, and it worked very well at that point. So I was very confident coming in here that this would work, basically, and obviously it did. And I think mostly I was just relieved that I was finally doing something about the problem, and I knew it was just a matter of time. So that's how I felt.
Tell me about some of the challenges that you faced with starting a fitness routine.
Yeah, so I would actually say it wasn't that challenging, starting a fitness routine. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you, I think, the pitfalls that I avoided. So first of all, I made it easy to come here. Basically, I work very close by. So it's like a 4-minute walk to come here. So, and you see me do this all the time. I'll come here, I'll do a quick workout, 30-minute workout, not a big deal, and then go back to work.
Right.
So it just I made it easy to fit into my schedule, essentially. Gotcha. I set myself up for success in that area. Honestly, I think having the trainer, having you there to keep me accountable, to make sure there's somebody making sure I'm going to show up when I say I'm going to show up, also makes it a lot easier. I guess those are probably the big things. I guess the hardest thing would be diet. I think dialing in the nutrition plan is something we've been working on consistently over 3.5 years. Obviously, we made a ton of progress on that. Yep. There's still more. We could still make improvements.
Absolutely.
But I think that was definitely the hardest part, was changing my eating habits, I would say.
And let's get into that. I mean, you mentioned, finding improvements in your diet. You recently finished a weight loss phase. Tell us about how long that took and what kind of results you got from that weight loss phase, how much weight you lost.
Yeah, so the last weight loss phase I did was recent, and it actually wasn't that bad. So it was from about January 1st, classic, to right at the end of February 28th. So
and this is 2025.
This is 2025, so this is very recent. We pretty much just did this about 9 weeks, and I lost about 12 pounds. So, and then, yeah, sorry, what was the rest of that?
So 9 weeks, 12 pounds down. This was not your first fat loss phase.
No.
We've been through this in the past multiple times. I want you to talk about how dieting has changed for you, what you've learned along the way, and what you've applied in this new time around in your recent weight loss phase.
Yeah, so that's a good question. So we've done this. I think we've done 3 cuts basically.
Correct.
The first one we did was in 2022. It was long.
Yep.
It was like 3 years. It was probably 6 months. It's like I was hungry for 6 months, and that was. I mean, it wasn't pleasant, but it wasn't horrible. It was just long. Basically, I was a little bit hungry for 6 months, and it was wearing me down.
Right.
But it was worth it. That's where I had to undo all those frozen pizzas, and it was worth it.
Yep.
The second cut we did was kind of summer, fall 2023, and that one was really hard.
Yes.
And I think the reason, in reflection, I think the reason that was hard is because I have a certain relationship with junk food like pizza and chips,
as many people
which a lot of people do.
Yeah.
And I use it as a reward at the end of a week. It's kind of like I've earned my pizza. I think a lot of people do this where we eat generally healthy and clean during the week, and then we reward ourselves with some of the good stuff on the weekend. And that's kind of that. I've kind of conducted my life in that way for a long time. Obviously in BCIT when I was doing that, it was all junk food all the time. But generally speaking, if you look at the last 30 years, even it's like a technique I learned from even my parents, sort of thing, is sort of like eat healthy during the week, and then on the weekend you can have some chips or whatever.
Gotcha.
And I think I was really trying to hang on to that in the 2023 cut, where it was a 2-month cut where I was trying to lose about 10, 12 pounds. And I was really trying to hang on to that. I really want to be able to have a pizza on the weekend.
Right.
And I think just what I had to give up during the week in order to still achieve my goals, just like the number of carbs during the week that I had to give up in order to hit those goals and have my pizza, it just wasn't worth it. So I think this time around, we changed a bunch of things. First of all, I gave up alcohol pretty much, and I gave up the junk food.
Let's pause there because that's a really powerful thing that you said there. Alcohol is very often tied to social life and networking. How did you find giving up alcohol for that 2 months?
It actually so 2 things. First of all, I would say it wasn't that bad.
Okay.
And the second thing I would say is that there were 2 nights that I did drink.
Right.
So when I say
yeah.
So when I say it's a 2-month, I did a 2-month cut. It was like 95% clean.
Gotcha.
And I think that's pretty good, I would say.
Yeah.
Most people would struggle to hit 95%.
For sure.
But I basically there were 2 birthdays, right? And those are very social events. And I basically told myself I will either drink or I will have some junk food. And in both cases, I chose alcohol.
Interesting.
which is interesting. I'm even surprised myself a little bit that I made that choice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I either drank and ate clean or just drank and just fasted or whatever. Because the only available food in these scenarios is junk.
Great.
So I think there were really only 2 really important nights where alcohol as the social lubricant really would have enhanced the evening, and I went ahead and availed myself.
Got you. So this required some planning, some thinking ahead.
Exactly.
And I think that's where people often fall short is they don't really look at the scope of what they're doing and plan ahead. And I have this saying, and that's that every problem you have in the gym can be solved with one word: preparation.
True.
I've said that to you many times, and I think you kind of embody in that experience how prepared you were and how methodical you were about that 5% cheat, which everyone needs, right? Like no one's going into a cut. I'm not telling any of my clients I expect 100% perfectness. All I expect is consistency and sustainability. And so going back to this weight loss phase, you found it much more sustainable this time around. You mentioned that, you started talking about carbs and your cheat meal. So let's go back to that and let's cover some more points of what you learned this time around and what you've done differently this time as opposed to previous weight loss phases.
Yeah. So definitely, I think giving up the junk food, like just kind of that's like a personal thing that I had to do is I had to accept that I wasn't going to have pizza for 2 months.
Mm.
Which like you know, when you literally just take it off the table, I think it mentally there was just something. For some reason, I just found it easier. It was like a little bit of mental gymnastics
Yeah.
where I was literally just like, I'm just not eating this until after February 28th. And it just wasn't even a question. Like any processed food or junk, it was just simply, I'm just not going to eat it, no matter what, pretty much. Um, so for some reason, I think just like that adherence, that like just like that level of discipline. Um, I don't know. It just kind of took away some processing capacity in my brain.
Yeah.
So
Sometimes when sometimes when you know that a reward is coming,
yeah,
you are anticipating that reward to a point to where it's now distracting you from the goal at hand.
exactly. And I think that's when I was doing the weekly cheat meals or the weekly refeeds or whatever you want to call them. It was like I was teasing myself almost.
Mm.
And it just wasn't. It was screwing me up because also you're like I'm in a calorie deficit. I'm hungry, right? Like my body's telling me you want food,
Yeah.
and it's like, do I want my body to be? It's like I'm hungry. I want food. That means chicken breast, or that means it could be pizza, and French
Right.
fries. But it's like
Not having that option there.
exactly. It's like literally. It's like if you're hungry, you can have as much chicken breast as you want. You want to eat carrots and Greek yogurt? You
Yeah.
can go ahead and do that.
Right.
It's like, and then it makes you really think: do I really am I really hungry, or do I
Right.
just want So I think that was part of it, and I also think, and this is also very important. I think what we were trying to do in the 2023 fall cut was we cut all the carbs out of lunch, and I kept some at dinner. And this time we just put the carbs at lunch and removed them at dinner. So I was not hungry. So this time around, I was not hungry at work in the afternoon. And you remember, I was coming in grouchy here. I was coming in grouchy.
You were coming in from a work shift where you had to use your brain. You were
Yeah.
tired the whole time trying to use your brain. So good. Let's talk about that. Yeah.
And then, in this last one, I was not hungry all day, and then I'd go to bed hungry, which for me is fine. But I definitely know people. I think everybody's answer to this will be different of the
For
way they
sure.
want to schedule their macros. And I have a friend who's the opposite of me. He doesn't eat anything all day, and then he has a giant meal at night,
Right.
and that works for him. And he's all in very good shape, super bodybuilder sort of thing. So I think everybody's answer to that is different. But I would say that testing that shift sort of thing really made an outsized impact on how, just like when do I eat my carbs, at lunch or at dinner, that made a big difference, I think, in how sustainable it was.
Absolutely. And and I like what you said about your friend, because this whole game there's nothing that's one size fits all. Everybody's body is different, everybody's temperament is different, and everybody has a way that works better for them. And so I think what was so valuable about that for us was we found out more about what worked for you. Right? There's 5 different ways, there's so many ways to the same destination. The right way is just the best way for you.
Yeah, I also think just having you there as a trainer to just kind of bounce this stuff off of. I think it helps us it helps me generate ideas faster. And you have experience dealing with this kind of thing with multiple people. You've seen it through multiple different lenses, multiple different perspectives. So you have good ideas, which I try, I've tried things that you suggested that didn't work plenty of times.
Totally.
And I just come back and I tell you that didn't work, and we try something else until we find something that works. And that's what happened. Was this past cut was kind of a culmination of all those things that worked, plus a few more.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. So going back again to your most recent cut, starting in January, ending in February, what advice would you give to someone who's trying to make that same change that you made? Someone who, they're motivated, they're in a gym, they're working out. You've obviously been through some trial and error. What tips or advice would you have for someone who's just entering a weight loss phase?
Yeah. So I would say, and this is somebody like towards the beginner, like at the
Ye-
gym, or is somebody like,
This is someone who, they've been in the gym for a while. They know how to do, a typical workout program. Say they're working with a trainer, maybe they're not, but they're ready to lose some weight.
mm,
They're starting day one tomorrow. What
mm.
tips or advice would you have for someone?
Yeah, okay. So I would say the two easiest ones that come to mind are, number one, watch the fat. Watch the
Mm,
fat macros. So whenever you're buying something at the grocery store, just like what I do is I make a habit of just turning it around, looking at the nutrition facts, and I'm expecting to see, like, ideally the highest macro is protein. Carbs can be ideally less than the protein, but I don't want it to be higher than the protein. Ideally, is unless it's like rice or something.
right.
Um, and then fat should be very low, really, is what I'm looking for. So I found this cut, by the way, Greek yogurt is awesome. Greek yogurt, you can have, if you want to cheat just a tiny little bit, you can just put a little bit of honey on there, not too much honey. There's a little bit of honey right before you go to bed. Have a couple spoonfuls of Greek yogurt with some honey, and it really hits that spot, and you're okay with it.
Yep.
Um, Also, you can make kind of like a ranch dressing out of
Yeah.
Greek yogurt instead of mayonnaise, and
Yeah.
then now carrots and celery are good.
Yep.
So I would say, like, that's the kind of thing that you pick up, is you can find some of those for yourself as long as you're keeping that habit of checking those macros on the back.
Absolutely.
And
That's a good
and
one.
yeah, I think one of the big mistakes that I was making is I was underestimating how much fat I was taking in.
That's a common issue. When I start working with a client, I find one of two things on the side of nutrition. One, they're consuming too much fat.
Mm-hmm.
And just a quick point on that, if we're in a weight loss phase, what we're essentially trying to do is be in a calorie deficit, like you mentioned earlier. And if we look at calories as a whole and apply that to the breakdown of macronutrients, protein, carbs, and fat, we can look at protein, and that's going to be 4 calories per gram of protein.
Mm.
We can look at carbs, and that's again going to be 4 calories per gram of protein. When we look at fat, fat is 9 calories per gram of protein. And I think that was a big realization that we had, was we were consuming so many calories from these fats, and it took away from the appetite that we should have for protein.
Mm-hmm.
So the two things that I find when I start working with a new client in terms of nutrition is often that their protein is too low and their fat is too high. So absolutely, we identified that, and that was a big tip. That was a good one.
Yeah, and I think that was really the early success we saw in that long cut. I think that was the key. That was the key thing that drove my weight loss. There was a reduction in fat.
Great.
I think the second thing that I would say is self-monitoring. So I use the scale at home. I have a bathroom scale at home, and I remember it took you had to talk me into that. I didn't think it was important, or I didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like weighing myself once or twice a week in the morning. That definitely, it lets you see the trend line, because also I've tried to use the nutrition apps to track calories and stuff. Really, I cannot estimate how many grams of whatever I had was. What I can do is consistently eat the same thing or very, very similar things every day over a week, and I can look at what my weight is doing. And then every couple weeks we can adjust. And we've had conversations where I say, look, Riley, my weight's doing that. For the last 2 weeks, it's done this. Should we do anything? And there have been multiple times where you've said, that actually sounds fine, don't change anything. And there have also been times when you said, let's try, like, add an avocado here or take out the avocado here, sort of thing.
That's right.
Avocado being fat, of course.
That's right.
So I think that's another thing. And I think people get a little freaked out about the self-monitoring sometimes, where they have like an unhealthy relationship with the scale or the mirror. And I'm sure I don't. But I know you probably see it more. And honestly, like, some advice I would maybe say is yes, it's maybe uncomfortable. But I feel like in life, certainly in my corporate life, and here, I'm measured by the numbers. And I just feel like in order to function in today's society, like, you gotta, in order to advance your life forward, sometimes you gotta measure by the numbers. And I think if you're uncomfortable with that, maybe evaluate why you're uncomfortable with that, and take the good parts of measuring by the numbers, and whatever the unhealthy parts are, like maybe like look to resolve those. I think.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah. So it's kind of like it's not like, oh, this makes me uncomfortable, I'm not going to do it. It's like, this is so important that I'm going to find a way to do it.
Beautiful.
That's how I would do it. It's easy for me to say because I don't have that problem though.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? I think there's a really good point there of, you're right. If there is an uncomfortable relationship with the scale, then that is going to be stemming from somewhere. And sometimes if we can get to the root of the issue there, then we actually can unpack so much more than we thought was there. And that turns into progress. So it can be very uncomfortable at times for many people. But I do agree with you. Metrics are important. And again, there isn't one right way of doing things. But resolving those issues, I think, is so huge when you actually unpack what's going on there, that it can benefit you in many more ways than, just watching your weight go down. Yeah, love it. So we talked about metrics. We talked about your weight loss journey. We talked about how your diet has changed over the years. I want to get into something more reflective now, something more personal. And I want you to tell me how, in the 3.5 years that you've been working with me, how has training impacted the way you see yourself?
It's a good question. I think the way that I see myself, it's an interesting question. I think you're only asking half of a question there, because the way that I see myself has changed a little bit. I think it's mostly just about feeling strong. I think it's like I said, towards the beginning of this conversation, when I said, I was having trouble keeping up with my friends, sort of thing, or even just walking down the street, just feeling kind of gross and weak, right? And it's not a good feeling. I think it certainly has implications for confidence. And I think now that we've been training for a while, and I can walk, when I'm walking down the street, I can kind of feel my muscles. I feel strong. I think it changes. I think that definitely has a change of self-perception. But honestly, I think the other half of that question, which is perhaps linked, is like, how do other people see you? And I think we all like to believe that it's all about our personal mindset and it's all in our heads. But I actually think that there is an image that we project to the world that changes the way the world interacts with you, that doesn't have a ton to do with your mindset. It has to do with like how you look. And I do think that, going, like, basically eating healthy and exercising, it makes you look healthy. Obviously, I'm not a super jacked bodybuilder or anything, but I do look healthy. And definitely that changes the way people interact with me.
Absolutely.
I think people treat me with more respect. And I think that can create kind of a virtuous cycle of confidence. So I think it's two. Like, yes, I feel stronger, just like on the inside, but also, I think people treat me with more respect as well.
And you know what? That's a really good point. I like the second point to that question, because you're right. I mean, when you see someone walking in and, whether they are a bodybuilder jacked to the gills, like bowling ball sized biceps, or whether they're just some lean person, and maybe they lost a bunch of weight, you saw them years ago, so you see the difference in them. I think that what people really see there isn't the image of what you are now, but they see the work that it took to get there. And I think there's a lot of value in that. When you can walk around holding your head high, knowing that you're someone who's capable and willing of doing something hard, I think that's what really gains the outside perspective's respect.
I think you're right. It's not something somebody can give to you or you can inherit. It requires discipline and sacrifice over a long period of time. It's the only way to get it.
Absolutely.
So I agree.
Okay, so we've talked about how doing something hard can gain the respect of others. I want to go back to you. I want to talk about some more wins you've had that are not related to your weight, but some wins that you've had in the past 3 years working with me in the gym.
Does lifting heavier weights
Absolutely
periodically?
Yeah.
So I would say definitely that's another way, I guess. We've spent a lot of time talking about weight loss, I think because it's been such a focus for me, but also a lot of people. But I think definitely one of my favorite parts, obviously it's more fun than weight loss, is actually getting stronger every week.
Yeah.
And being able to measure, especially during like a bulk or a lean mass gaining phase, is it's surprising how much more weight you can pull or push on a week-to-week basis, and it feels really awesome.
Yeah.
It's really fun, and definitely like at the beginning, I wasn't really feeling that, but I think in year 2, year 3, I was really starting to see big results in terms of just raw strength.
For sure.
And that is just so fun. So I think that's like a non-tangible win, is like the amount of joy that I get from just feeling really strong.
Yeah.
Just like, man, I'm like 30% stronger than last week.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And I love that you say that, because I think a lot of the time people are either intimidated by lifting heavy weight, or they get the perception, because of social media and what we see nowadays, that if you lift heavy, you're going to get big and bulky, which can scare away a lot of females. But even females, you talked specifically about the joy that you had from lifting heavy weights. And I think that's a very valuable concept, because lifting weights isn't just about rah, looking big, like bro testosterone. A lot of it just comes from that joy, that dopamine rush, and not even just that, but the self-respect of walking away from a heavy set being like, yeah, I did that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm strong.
Exactly. Yes. And a lot of it, yeah, also it does tie into the nutrition, where it's like, I've been 100% dialed and locked in for a week, and my reward is a new PR. And that's another thing with like having the trainer. It's like, I'm excited about my PR, but you're just as excited as I am when I hit a PR. So it's just that kind of virtuous cycle, that feeding on each other. So I think that's one. And the second, another one is definitely the social aspect of the gym. As you know, and as you've noticed, I'm a social dude.
You are.
And I love, if there's 12 people in the gym, I'm having 12 conversations in the middle of the workout.
I love that about you.
Yep. So I would say that's another piece, the community aspect. And I would also say, I would kind of extend that into saying that this gym in particular is particularly good at that, because we almost all work with trainers, and often in pairs.
Yes.
And I think that aside from making the training more affordable, it kind of makes it more fun. Obviously, I love getting a private session. I think those are important for us. We make a lot of progress with those. But also, I think it makes it more fun when I can work with somebody and see, which movements, a lot of the time I'll be working with somebody who they can do a particular movement in a way that like it inspires me.
Yeah.
And probably vice versa.
Yep.
Or just sometimes it's just kind of the banter and the fun energy.
Yep.
That results in laughter. So I think that's another thing. And I guess, I don't know, I think you're asking like, what were the challenges of getting into a fitness routine. And I
Yeah,
talked
yeah.
about how I did some things that made it not challenging. I think that's another one, is I actually like coming here because it's fun.
Yes.
And part of that is because of the people.
Yeah. And the community, you're right. Like the community is such a big aspect. And, you talked about how you might see someone doing a movement that either they're doing it differently than you've done in the past, or maybe it's something you haven't even done before. You're kind of looking out the side of your eye. Oh, what's that person doing over there? And, that's a two-way street. I've seen other people who jump in with sessions for you, and you are a very social guy, you're very outgoing, but you're also very enthusiastic. And you talked about, the joy of lifting heavy.
yeah.
I think other people can feel
yeah.
the joy. It's like secondhand joy, And so seeing someone's enthusiasm about something, it can really rub off on you.
Yeah.
And it definitely is contagious in this gym here. So I'm glad that's had a positive impact on you.
Yeah.
Moving on, let's ask one more and we'll get you out of here. Great. So we talked about, some of the challenges. I'm gonna start that again just because I think my phone was in my hand when I started. Great. So we talked about some of the challenges that you faced with starting your fitness routine. You talked about, the community, how that's helped you working with a trainer. I want you to think back to that Scott who, right before you walked in with me, you knew you had to make a change. You could feel it walking up and down the street. You described it as kind of feeling gross. What would you say to someone who's in that same position you were in, who may feel intimidated, may just not know where to start, but wants to make a change to their health?
Yeah. See, I mean, I'm biased, and I can tell you what worked for me. Like the number one thing, honestly, is probably to get a trainer. At least, and that was I remember that was my plan at first, was I'm just going to get a trainer, and the trainer will teach me how to use the gym, and then I'll stop, basically, and I'll do it on my own.
Right.
And then it was so fun that I just kept going, and it's been now 3.5 years.
Right.
And I actually get that question all the time is well, now that you've had the trainer for 3.5 years, like, why do you need him?
Yeah.
And there's so many answers to that. Like, probably the main one is, I come in here tired after work all the time, and I think without you there to push me, where my limit is, and you're always making sure I'm brushing up against it. And on some days it is lower, but on most days, I can do better than I think I can.
You're getting after it, yeah.
So, I think it's easy to show up to the gym and kind of give 50 to 75% effort for an hour, where a half an hour of that is just staring at your phone. And I think the fact that I see you means I don't do that. I get the absolute most out of the gym in the short time that I'm here. So I think that's part of it, is basically like, number one, get a trainer, at least to start, and they'll show you the good techniques and everything, and then maybe you can stop. Maybe you'll be the same as me and you'll end up really enjoying it, and it becomes something you love. That's number one. Number two is, I would really recommend the scale and the self-monitoring. You just give yourself a starting point and a direction to go in, and it doesn't matter where you start. It does matter that next week you're better than this week. And that takes discipline, and I think discipline can be defined as holding the one idea in your head for a long period of time and not losing focus on that goal, just kind of keeping it sort of there in the front or even in the middle of your mind. So I would say that. I would say nutrition. I would say, again, like having a train. A lot of people think they eat better than they do.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah.
And I think, like, honestly, having professional help, like a trainer kind of doubles as a nutritionist. Maybe that's not true. You certainly have, for me. And we text about it even outside of the gym. You help me make these decisions on a weekly basis. And that's been super helpful. So I would say, like having a trainer to help with the nutrition aspect as well, or if you, I mean, again, I'm just telling you, like, my way of doing this definitely was with a trainer. But yeah, I would say those are the three things. Maybe if you can't afford a trainer, like, try and make it social. Again, maybe that's like a me thing. I know you're like a solo gym guy.
I am. I like to isolate.
Yeah, but I like the social aspect.
And most people do.
Yeah, so I would say, like, give yourself an accountability buddy or somebody to do it with.
Perfect.
And then I would say, yeah, self-monitor. If you have a goal, I think you got to measure it, honestly, man.
Yeah.
I think you got to measure it.
Yeah.
And number 3 is you got to eat right.
Yeah.
And I think you want to take that in small steps.
And to build off that, I have a saying, you've heard me say it many times, and that's, you don't know what you don't know. We talked about macronutrients and caloric density of said macronutrients. And the average Joe shouldn't be expected to know that. Why would we expect any normal person, who's not involved with fitness to understand the caloric breakdown of 1 gram of fat? Like, no. So like you said, many people do think that they're eating clean, I'm eating good. And not that they're not eating clean or eating good, but just a lot of the times there's areas we could make improvement where it's a small change, but an effective change.
Yeah.
And I want to say one more thing to that. For anybody who's starting to get into a fitness routine, wants to start, is intimidated, doesn't know where to start, I've been there too. I am a personal trainer, have been for 5 years. But there was a day where it was day 1 in the gym for me. And my biggest piece of advice for anybody looking to get started is just stay moving forward. If you're lost, which many people these days are, and when I say lost, I mean you don't know where to start, you're not sure if you should get a gym membership, well, should I start with my diet? I don't even know if I can do a workout. You're stuck in quicksand, and the longer you stand there, the more you're gonna sink. And my biggest tip for anybody out there looking to start is just make that first step. Walk into a gym you've never walked into before. Say, hey, look, I don't know where to start. Or Google, Google personal trainers near me. Do something, even if it starts with a 15-minute walk outdoors on a daily basis. Eventually, you'll know that you're capable of more, and you'll find that next step. I think a lot of people these days are looking for the perfect time to start a routine, when work isn't super busy and when their level of motivation is high enough. I'm telling you, there is no perfect time. The perfect time, take that first step, walk into a gym, and the rest will follow.
Yeah.
Awesome. Scott, this has been a pleasure, man. If you have anything else you'd like to say or any questions you have for me, the floor is yours. Let's close this off.
Yeah. I just have one question.
Love it. Hit me.
What's your favorite thing to put on chicken breast?
Okay, I love that. I'm going to give you 2 scenarios. I'm going to give you a scenario where I'm in a weight loss phase. I got to be a good boy, and calories matter. And if that's the case, you know me, I'm going with mustard. 0 calories, baby.
French's yellow mustard.
French's yellow mustard. It could be French's. I like a Dijon mustard every now and then, like a seeded mustard. Mustard really is my go-to hack to add taste to anything. The fact that it's 0 calories, you can just throw it on. I think we used it a lot in this recent cut.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's going to be answer A for you. Answer B, Saturday night, baby. I'm cheat meal. I'm going crazy. First, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover my chicken breast in breadcrumbs. Okay. I'm going to get a breaded chicken breast. And then I'm going to get a bunch of marinara sauce and Parmesan and mozzarella. And I'm going to
cheese.
Oh yeah, we're going crazy. And I'm going to make a chicken parm, and I'm going to throw that on top of a big old bowl of pasta.
I can't
Saturday
believe,
night.
I can't believe you just said that.
Saturday night, I'm cheat mealing.
Pasta and cheese?
Yeah. I know, unheard of.
Wow.
But
I can't believe you just admitted that on camera.
I know. I feel like I'm confessing here, but yeah, a really good question, because chicken breast, we've eaten a lot of it. It's become our staple, and I think finding ways to make things taste good again. Another big one for me, if I can go back to that first part, is hot sauce. Hot sauce is a great staple for any time you're in a cut. It's not that it necessarily adds flavor, but that spice just gets something going about you where, it satisfies some type of craving when you're in a cut that other things just don't satisfy. So I'm going to say hot sauce and mustard. Like I said, if we're going crazy, oh yeah, parm, mozzarella cheese, marinara, whole 9 yards.
Nice.
Awesome. Scott, this has been a pleasure, man. Congrats to all your success. Here's to many more.
Yeah.
And thanks for watching, everyone.
Yeah.